From 2005 to 2015, a 10-year-long project that should have lasted longer, Freedom of Information Act documents showed that all major manufacturers of color laser printers, that's not the only ones, entered into secret agreements with various governments, or the government, depending on where you were looking, ensuring a printer's output, the sheet of paper it printed, but it's not just that, is able to be associated to that printer or that printer company's make, model, the serial number, which means it's down to the printer, and when the printing or other activity occurred. This was encoded in such a way that it would be retrievable by some method, blacklight, whatever. Go look it up. But it would be a pattern of dots, a lot like a QR code, like you would scan. You already know how much data can be stored in a QR code, right? These dots were usually yellow, but it could be anything else. It can also be black and white noise on photocopies. No matter how clean you got that glass, and no matter how obvious the sheet was perfect, it would have dots that were odd shapes, so it looked like crap. It always looked like it had it, and it would change every once in a while. On a photocopier, well, that's on the drummer. Yeah, everybody out there is a repair technician. I got to be one for a few weeks. That's not really true. It was something else. This would be a watermark, forensically traceable or trackable data, steganography. Okay, I can't pronounce the word. Okay, it's steganography. 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 Okay, fine. Stegosaurus without a graph paper. Anyway, the list was no longer updated as of 2017 and was being, the Freedom of Information Act requests were being ignored after a certain point. Well, the printer company stopped doing it. There was a political change, and you already know which piece of shit might have been involved. Who wants to make sure you can't track down documentation? How many of you are still buying the word of somebody who obviously got a really cushy deal and is going to get pardoned? Okay, I'm not implying it anymore. This happened during the Trump period, right? Or not? No, this was Biden, right? I'm confused. They're all the same, right? Tell me all how about it's all, both sides. But anyway, this happened long before all this. This actually happened. Oh, look, Obama's in there too. Yeah, it doesn't matter who's in charge. This is the government. Why? To keep you from photocopying a $100 bill or a $20 bill or the $1 bill, which is the most commonly photocopied and or stolen bill literally on the planet, by foreign governments. Foreign governments would get photocopiers that do nearly perfect copies. They would make paper locally because, I'm sorry, China has a shit ton of paper production, and produce almost perfect bills to flood the environment. A lot of the money you were carrying that were bills were fake for a while. Every time they were discovered, they were quietly replaced and put into storage and analyzed to figure out how they were doing it. But anyway, this was to keep people from making photocopies of bills. But it would also allow you to track back to the exact printer and maybe the exact person, or organization, or country who did it. And it would also let you, make sure the Epstein files are trackable to the printer. I'm one of many people that analyzed the lie about Barack Obama's birth certificate being fake. It was not fake, it was real. But here's the data you learn. It's not just printers, it's the scanners that grab the images because it became more efficient to scan the image, doctor up the data file, and save it, and then print it. I ran into this problem when I was doing my business cards. I have one actually here on the table, but I'm going to show it to you. When I ran a business, I would get the business card Avery things that are sheets of paper. They're card stock that are pre-perforated. Okay? And I would photocopy the stuff on or have it laser print. And I would do it in two passes, one with thick lettering and then thin lettering, so it'd have a raised lettering effect so it looked like expensive shit. I was able to do this for people. I made business cards for a while. And I used the best quality laser printer for the high detail, thin stuff, and then I would use the low detail stuff either over the top or later on I did it first layer as low res. The reason was I could do it and it would make it just slightly lower res. One was 2 units wide and the other one was 1 unit wide, which means it would get in the middle. and it would end up having this kind of profile. That made it look like raised ink. Then I would use a specific brand of packaging tape over the strip of cards, press it down, get all the air out of it on both sides, and crack them loose in a strip. This made it to where I had cards that I gave people that were perfectly laminated and would last for a very long time because I did another step. I heated them up to where it would slightly change the color, and I would press them down again, and this made the plastic and the glue part of the paper. Yes, this is very bad for the environment, I know that. But the point is, I would then card punch them in a card puncher that cut off the edges clean and rounded them off by cutting the edges off and then rounding over the plastic and then thermaling them. The edges would not leak. Yeah, that's a lot of steps to go through. I got paid good money for it. I called them rubber cards because they felt like a sheet of rubber, but it was really paper. And they were nearly indestructible. They would stop a pellet gun pellet. But anyway, the point is, after all that, all of them had a pattern that eventually I was able to discern that identified which laser printer it was from. This is a black and white one. It's not colored. Yeah. So I looked at the file. The file injected data because I grabbed it and dumped it to a thumb drive. It injected noise that wasn't noise. So I had all of my samples because I had the original scan data. I just found all the dot patterns and found the same pattern. I'll include in the thumbnail for this video the same analysis that some group of people did, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, a bunch of other people. And also, I also did the same thing, came to the same conclusion. It's binary. Least significant part down here. It'll have a line here, a line here, a line, and a break. Over here will be data that's one type. Over here will be the time and date stamp. Over here is the serial number for the printer. And the bottom edge is where the lowest significant bit is. And then at the top is a checksum bit, odd or even, parity, excuse me. And over here on this side is parity as well. And apparently there's one checksum, meaning modulus, round off, blah, 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 all the numbers over in one end. It wasn't fully understood. Now it is. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, nobody's done this in a while. You haven't detected this happening in any of the printers or scanners. You haven't detected it. That just means you're not aware of it. It doesn't mean they stopped doing it. And that's kind of where I'm going here. Every email you send as an EML file, that's actually the extension for emails, contains to and from data and a type of confirmation code to authenticate it. Fax machines send data that you can visibly see at the bottom that says it's a specific fax, meaning it can be authenticated. For business purposes, for a contract, you have to have traceability back to the original fax machine, which is nothing but a scanner. Some of this stuff was only put in the corners or on the edges. Some of it would be impressed in any straight line that went all the way one way or another, so it would impress it in as literal binary injected into the dot pad as a dot pattern into any straight line. One of the ways to get around this, people would try, would be to rotate it just 1.5 degrees. It'd have to be a partial degree twist, and it would force it to do it. It'd come out jaggy and ugly, but any line that was going to be printed with data couldn't be done, so the thing would give up. I've seen hundreds of methods and discussions about it. That and the fact that the paper you'd get, Avery, is imprinted with tracking data. Not just that it's a specific thing that the FBI can really suss out. They can just image it, and the computer systems they have will just optically detect that it's marked. All of it's marked. All the printer paper. Unless you make your own paper and your own ink and your own movable type, you are dealing with trackability on everything. I've seen books that, yes, I had a light source at one time and a camera that could do it. I've found books that have been made by the free press and random people that had all the tracking data, and I was able to figure out what company they got the paper from and what company made the printer. Down to the serial number. I could have found out who they were if they bought the thing. If you buy a used one, it'll track to the last person who owned it. Thrift shops are your friend. But what do you do about the email? What do I do about this video? And if anybody watches my channel on a regular basis, one of you has been asking me to do a breakdown of a video of a very depressing subject involving a chunk of evidence that was finally released for other people to analyze. And I was going to do it until I saw all the people ignoring the file and running it through Photoshop filters to say they're ghosts in the background on the Monon High Bridge in Delphi, Indiana. I'm trained in data recovery and forensic examination of digital and non-digital data. I'm also listed with the U.S. Treasury Department as a counterfeiter. I'm literally trained to counterfeit money. There you go. This isn't on my resume. Well, it is actually, but I don't give you my resume. I'm literally taught how to do this shit because I got curious and learned about it. Took a bunch of classes, 2600 club, 2600 group. And, yeah, I also used to be able to whistle touch tones. I'm one of those freaks. Long ago and far away. I'm on the FBI and every other list, okay? I do know what I'm talking about. Everything you do is being tracked, monetized, and it was done in the evil of banality. Banal, boring evil. Companies keeping data because they didn't know what to do with it and felt originally that they should erase it for your privacy. But they kept it anyway because they realized, can we do something with this? And data mining happened and people figured out, hey, we can figure out what kind of cereal you like and target ads to you eventually if we figure out how to do it. Well, guess what? They do it now. I have my computer configured so that Cloudflare won't let me go to most web pages now. It's getting worse because I turned off every ability to track. I'm not trackable. I mean, I'm not even trying really hard, and I'm just untrackable enough. I'm pissing off every company. YouTube has been threatening for a long time to not load just because I won't let them have any tracking data. Every time I show up, they've gotten used to my channel. They're just not going to bother protecting it. If somebody breaks in, it'll be because I've made myself hard to track. Because they can't fingerprint the computer because it literally gives them different data each time. I usually tell it to identify as a Macintosh running DOS because that confuses them enough. They realize, oh, it's the DOS guy running on a Mac. By the way, there is a version of DOS for Macintosh. I don't know if you know that. So I have that doing that, and if it asks the op system. And the browser identifies itself as Firefox old version, which is the one I'm using, so I can get pages to load correctly. It's very unusual. I'm very trackable, except that they think I'm somewhere in Poughkeepsie, New York or something. I'm not behind 7 proxies, although that's pretty much the meme. So, do you trust your printer and scanner? Your cell phone is doing this. Your email is doing this. Every video you put up. I don't even bother removing the metadata because I don't care. I just replace it with something completely bogus. I identified as being in Antarctica for 4 years just because it was funny until they finally said you can't identify as being in Antarctica. You're not one of the people on the list that's there. And I'm like, what list? But yeah, the yellow dots are still there. They're just harder to see. Things are hidden between. The joke is you don't read between the lines or the pixels. You read between the atoms. Oh yeah, and chemical markers on paper and chemical markers in the print as well. It goes on and on. Your only hope is to find the most generic printer and photocopier in the area. That meant we went to Kinko's. Everything was done through Kinko's. Why? It just said you were at a Kinko's in Portland. All of them had the same ID code because every hacker on the planet changed the ID code for all the Xerox printers and photocopiers that went through Kinko's as having the same serial number. They couldn't do anything about it, and they didn't catch it for 8 years. So they were all at one Kinko's in Portland, no matter where you photocopied from. And as for the paper, we would just buy the cheap stuff because the cheaper printing companies didn't bother marking anything. It's crap paper, but you know what? I'll take crap paper and deal with the consequences. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. Just some data for all of you. Maybe you need it. Good luck. You'll need it.